Jean Piaget was a Swiss psychologist and genetic epistemologist born in Switzerland on August 9, 1896. He is most famous for his theory of cognitive development, which you might have heard of. His theory looks at how children develop intellectually throughout the course of infancy into adulthood. Piaget's theory of cognitive development was instrumental in the emergence of developmental psychology as its own distinctive subfield within psychology. He is also credited as a pioneer of the constructivist theory, which suggests that people actively construct their knowledge of the world based on the interaction between their ideas and experiences. In shaping cognitive development, Piaget emphasized the importance of active exploration and interaction with the environment, highlighting the importance of assimilation and accommodation in constructing mental schemas. According to Piaget, children are not passive recipients of information. Instead, they actively explore and interact with their surroundings. He states that active engagement with the environment is crucial because it allows them to gradually build their understanding of the world. This theory fundamentally changed the way society viewed education for children, noting the differences between how children and adults learn. Piaget places a strong emphasis on the active role that children play in their own cognitive development. Piaget said, "Children should be able to do their own experimenting and their own research. Teachers, of course, can guide them by providing appropriate materials, but the essential thing is that in order for a child to understand something, he must construct it himself. He must reinvent it. Every time we teach a child something, we keep him from inventing it himself. On the other hand, that which we allow him to discover by himself will remain with him visibly." He believed that the best way to understand children's reasoning was to see things from their point of view. When tasked with creating the French versions of English intelligence tests, Piaget became intrigued with the reasons children gave wrong answers. Piaget did not want to measure how well children could count, spell, or solve problems as a way of grading their IQ. What he was more interested in was the way in which fundamental concepts like number, time, quantity, causality, justice came to be. The first of Piaget's theories that we'll talk about are schemas. Piaget suggested that children organize the information they need into groupings known as schemas. They are able to form these groups based on their experience and interactions. When new information is acquired, it can either be assimilated into existing schemas or accommodated through revising an existing schema or creating an entirely new category of information. In essence, a child's cognitive development is not just about acquiring knowledge. The child has to construct a mental model of the world to understand it. Next, we'll talk about the stages of cognitive development. Today, Piaget is best known for his research on children's cognitive development. Piaget studied the intellectual development of his own 3 children from infancy to adolescence using naturalistic observation and sometimes controlled observation. As a result, he created a theory that described the stages that children pass through in the development of intelligence and formal thought processes. He posited that children progress through 4 distinct stages, each stage representing varying cognitive abilities and world understanding. The sensorimotor stage, birth to 2 years, the pre-operational stage, 2 to 7 years, the concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years, and the formal operational stage, 11 years and beyond. He also suggests that cognitive development results from the interplay between innate capabilities, nature, and environmental influences, nurture. Piaget's theory suggests that each stage reflects the increasing sophistication of children's thought. The 4 stages of Piaget's theory are as follows. Sensorimotor stage. The first stage of cognitive development lasts from birth to approximately age 2. During this stage, as the name suggests, infants focus on physical sensations and on learning to coordinate their body. During the earlier parts of this stage, the infant lives in the present, which means it does not yet have a mental picture of the world stored in its memory, resulting in a lack of object permanence. They believe that if they cannot see something, then it does not exist. This is why you can hide a toy from an infant while it watches, but it will not search for the object once it has gone out of sight, or why peekaboo is so entertaining to an infant. The main achievement during this stage is object permanence, knowing that an object still exists, even if it is hidden. It requires the ability to form a mental representation, that is a schema, of the object. Pre-operational stage. The second stage of development lasts from the ages of 2 to 7 and is characterized by the development of language and the emergence of symbolic, imaginary play. At the beginning of this stage, a child's thinking is influenced by the way things appear rather than logical reasoning. Piaget noted that a child cannot conserve, which means that the child does not understand that quantity remains the same even if the appearance changes. Imagine pouring the same amount of water into a short glass and a tall glass. A child will think that the tall glass has more water. Furthermore, the child is egocentric. He assumes that other people see the world as he does. As children develop through the pre-operational stage, egocentrism declines, and children begin to enjoy the participation of another child in their games. This is where pretend play becomes more important. By 2 years, children have made some progress toward detaching their thoughts from the physical world. However, have not yet developed logical or operational thought, which are characteristics of later stages. In this stage, thinking is still intuitive, based on subjective judgments about situations, and egocentric, centered on the child's own view of the world. Concrete operational stage. The third stage of cognitive development lasts from the age of 7 to approximately age 11. At this stage is where logical thought emerges. However, children still struggle with abstract and theoretical thinking. By the beginning of the concrete operational stage, the child can use operations which are a set of logical rules so that they can conserve quantities, realize that people see the world in a different way, known as decentering, and demonstrate improvement in inclusion tasks. Conservation is the understanding that something stays the same in quantity, even though its appearance changes. In this stage, operational thought is only effective if the child is asked to reason about materials that are physically present. Children at this stage will have difficulty, make mistakes, or be overwhelmed when asked to reason out abstract or hypothetical problems. Something to note is that this stage is called concrete, because it denotes that children can think logically much more successfully if they can manipulate real, concrete materials or pictures of them. Piaget actually considered the concrete stage as a major turning point in a child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thought. Formal operational stage. In the fourth and final stage of cognitive development, lasting from age 12 and into adulthood, Piaget suggests that children become much more proficient at abstract thought and deductive reasoning. This stage involves the ability to combine and classify items in a more sophisticated way and the capacity for higher-order reasoning. In this stage, adolescents will experience the emergence of scientific thinking, formulating abstract theories and hypotheses when faced with a problem, thinking systematically and reasoning about what might be as well as what is. This reasoning allows them to understand politics, ethics, and science fiction, form logical arguments, and solve imaginary problems. Piaget notes that not everyone is able to reach this stage. At each stage of development, the child's thinking is qualitatively different from the other stages. Piaget argues that each stage involves a different type of intelligence. Although no stage can be missed out, there are individual differences in the rate at which children progress through each stage, and some individuals may never attain the later stages. Jean Piaget helped shape society's foundational knowledge of childhood cognitive development. His theories have influenced not only the field of developmental psychology, but also other fields, including sociology, education, and more. Though Piaget did not explicitly relate his theory to education, later researchers have explained how features of Piaget's theory can be applied to teaching and learning. Piaget's theory has been extremely influential in developing educational policy and teaching practice. In the 1960s, the Plowden Committee investigated the deficiencies in education and decided to incorporate many of Piaget's ideas into its final report published in 1967. Piaget's theories continue to be studied in the areas of psychology, sociology, education, and genetics. His work contributed to our overall understanding of the intellectual development of children and how it differs and must be treated differently than the cognitive thinking, deduction, and reasoning of adults.